Yeah, so
this is video number 3 with our special guest, Lael Johnston. And yeah, okay. Continuing the thoughts. Bada boom, bada bing. Off we go.
You were talking about, having to do your remedial theory for your master's. So this is a terrible story. So when I went up to Edmonton to do my master's, they make you write all the entrance exams to make sure that your undergrad meets the snuff of the U of A.
Yep.
And anyway, so there was and it was intense. Like I had to write a history exam, I had to do a theory exam, year training, and anyway, so I get notification that I have to have a meeting with. So I've written these exams, and then you had to meet with, the head of whatever department, right? And I had met with the head of the history department and found out that I had not done so well in like the medieval Renaissance part of the entrance exam, So
like I don't understand that pain.
Jeez. I had to audit a medieval Renaissance class, right? Which, first year class, and which was fortunate because that's where all the cute, impressionable first year female students were. Which as a grad student, you had that appeal. But I also got notification that I had to meet with the theory guy, and theory was never my thing, right? And it's funny, having taught for 20 years, I could totally ace those classes now, but back then it was not the case. And so I knew the news was not going to be good. And anyway, so I go up to the office, and something's happened, right? Like and I don't, I'm brand new up there, so I don't know anyone. And so no one's really talking to me, but I can tell just by the way the secretaries are acting, and like something bad has happened. The guy I'm supposed to meet was coming home from, he'd been up north in like Rocky Mountain House or something like that, and hit a moose and died. And ouch. So, yeah. So as I was, was informed that this meeting, couldn't happen, right? And that was it. I never had to audit a theory class, which is horrible, absolutely horrible for this poor guy. But definitely dodged that bullet. But yeah, often.
Yeah.
Felt a little bad about that.
I remember having to do, and it was probably, when Ken DeLong was teaching the remedial theory, I ended up dropping it. And I think I did it with Coelho afterwards, which was way more manageable. And it had there was something that needed to be done with Josquin de Pré, one of those medieval cats. So you mentioned medieval, it reminded me. And I remember thinking, I don't have freaking time to figure this shit out, man. I'm going to go to the library and see what's cooking. So I go to the library, I go to the stacks, and the first book I pull out from the shelf is Josquin de Pré's and the piece that we had to analyze and figure out who it was. And I thought the universe is smiling on me. I freaking got an A on that assignment. Thank heavens for that. And then passed the remedial shit, and then it was in the program. But oh my gosh.
Yeah, the amount of stress that came from music theory, and now it's like just, I don't know.
God, for me it was history. Ugh. Do you remember on those ski trips that we went on? The Panorama? Yeah. Remember what I always brought with me was my Donald J. Grout. God.
Yeah. what's interesting is now with what's going on in the world about, all of this colonialism and dead white people and shit like that, that stuff's finally changing. I don't think we're going to, at VIU here, I don't think we're going to be teaching that stuff anymore. It's going to be more about world music and, stuff like that, and moving away from, I still think they need to know about Beethoven, but not to the same extent. So I think that stuff's changing,
Well, I know at U of C, we had 4 years of history, 4 full years. And it was, and I know a lot of the other places, they had like 1 or 2 years history overview.
Yeah.
But we had 4 full years of history.
That's because all the profs were freaking musicologists. You got to give them something to do.
That's true. Yeah.
I guess.
So
it'll, with the, Greg, you're talking about, with current trends and stuff. It's really interesting when you think about the sort of the music education band program concept, which is so rooted in colonialism, right? Like 100%, like everything about it. And yet at the same time, I think we all experienced, some pretty amazing stuff coming through those programs, right? And, hopefully, we can negotiate a healthy change in certain areas without losing the good parts as well, right?
yeah, no, agreed. As we kind of revamp our program here, I'm lobbying for, I thought, well, instead of 4 semesters of classical music history, 1 semester, give them a good overview of the whole 600-700 years of it, so that they understand the background. But then do a semester of jazz history, do a semester of world music history, do a semester of the history of pop music and stuff like that, which makes it, a little bit more relevant. And then the same with the music theory. It's like, yeah, okay, if you want to, if you happen to get a call from, I'm dating myself here, Steven Spielberg, and says, I'm doing a period piece on the, 1700s or whatever, and the style of music back then was Baroque. I'd like to hire you to, to write some baccarals for this movie score. Okay, well then go research baccarals and learn how to do it, freaking write the score. But to study it to the in depth the way we had to is like, what the frick, man? What's it got to do with the students do that, and then they get into the arranging class and they're like, excuse me, I can write parallel octaves? I'm like, yeah, you can write parallel fifths too. It sounds freaking amazing. They're like, why did I just spend 2 years of not writing that stuff? I was like, I don't know.
Going back to this Stan Finn's class, I remember having to write out some of these chorales and stuff. And he would come to the piano and he'd start to play and he'd say, can you hear those parallel fifths, those parallel octaves? I'm like, I've already been exposed to C7 sharp 9 flat 13. So parallel octaves and parallel fifths don't sound weird to me. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Our ears are more in tune and sophisticated than being able to nail a parallel fifth or octave.
Yeah.
They don't. I'm like, sorry, my skin's not crawling. I guess it's supposed to be, and my fillings should be melting, but they're not. So I'm sorry about that. I don't share in that same enthusiasm that you do with how shitty that sounds. But anyway, I don't get it. I'm sorry. That what I'm hearing sounds fine to me.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, if I played an E natural on C minor 7, then yeah, Houston, we have a problem. But what parallel fifths and octaves, whatever, they.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there.
Never a big deal to me. And it was stupid because I think anytime any of those came up in class, I think I just bombed, went down in a blaze of glory when it came to those things.
Yeah.
I could never hear an issue with those things. Never could.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Well, I love having the ability to write a good hymn.
Sure. I'd probably have parallel fifths and octaves all over the place. I just would. And end on a major 7, probably, or major 9, probably. That's what I would end up doing. I know
used to, when I'd be doing 4-part harmony with my band classes, I would we discuss, just the idea of how, you can make it happen without actually even having to hear it, right? and, starting with a 1, ending with a 5-1, and just getting the kids to randomly, pick the appropriate notes. But yeah, no, it's a party trick. Really is what we
Impress your
learned.
friends at parties. There you go. Yeah.
Now, before you take off to go have burgers with Bob, as we were setting this up, Pat said that you're in administration now.
Yeah, I've had enough of being a band teacher, and I've gone for the glory of suspending kids, which is
Nice.
Are you an AP or a VP?
AP.
Okay.
Assistant principal.
Right. Still at Chestermere or somewhere else?
No, so now I have to sit in the back seat and watch someone run my program that I built for 20 years. But fortunately, so I'm in Airdrie now at George McDougall.
Wow. Okay.
Great band teacher there, a guy by the name of Jordan Harris, does a great job. So it's I don't know, it's part of it. I think coming out of COVID, it was a pretty easy decision because, it hasn't been a good year, right? Or previous year, right? And when I made the decision, I didn't know where things were going. But even leading up to it, I just wasn't really feeling the love for it anymore. I know part of it is being, a crunchy old band teacher too, but like the kids, their heart isn't really in it anymore, right? And
yeah, no, I get that.
Every year it seems like, the grade level kind of just is a little bit less, and there's always kids that are working really hard, right? But it's not the really good kids, like you'll always have those, but it's sort of just that medium ground, which always sort of really helped make the program flourish. It's the sort of the majority are not making the grade anymore, and they don't want to, right? Like it just doesn't really resonate with them, right? And so create these and really cool, like I think probably my last big project was had Sean Medevetsky, the tabla player from McGill, had come out, and me and him had co-written this piece for drumline and tabla, and like we put together this really cool thing, premiered it at the National Music Center, and high-end musical experience, and having kids just I don't think I'll show up, right? And the good kids, the kids that carried the show, did show up, right? But it's just like that. And you see it in society, right? Like people have become kind of, I think, a little, and it might not be a bad thing, but more concerned about their own little experience, and forgetting that
I think the problem there too is that Justin Bieber wasn't on the program.
yeah, like a lot of these kids, like they don't.
Justin Bieber and tabla, I think, would have really drawn them out, I think.
Now, have you had how long you been doing that, Lael?
The admin?
Just
since the fall.
Okay. Now, have you had the opportunity to divert funds from the football team to the band program?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yeah, actually, so this is kind of the cool thing is when they offered me the position, the associate superintendent. So it's been myself and a brand new principal to the school, and his background is fine arts as well. And the intention is they want us to grow a fine arts program. So like the music program is really solid there. And so we're looking to just really beef up the theater program, and
right on.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't Luke Sandham in Airdrie?
So Luke was in, yeah, he actually taught at the school that would have fed into my school at one point, I think. Is it Muriel Clayton, I think?
Yes, that's what I did. Some
I think
clinics
so,
for-
yeah. Rings a bell.
Yeah, Muriel Clayton. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Luke took that high school, Croxford, which is the newest high school in Rocky View Division, and was there for a
Right
while. And then now I think he just builds guitars, right?
He does. Yep.
Yeah.
He
That's
does
right.
what? He builds guitars?
Yes. He's
Not teaching band anymore, or is he
No,
doing
he's
that on
not.
the side?
No, he's not teaching band.
Not teaching
He's
band.
left the teaching position?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. His wife must be making good money. But he's
Leslie. Is he still with Leslie was her name? Is he still with her?
She was a nurse. Yeah, yeah, he's still.
That's ringing a bell. Yeah, lovely woman. Yeah.
I did a gig with Luke in February.
With his brass band.
Yeah, February 20th at the Ironwood. Luke was on
Oh,
there.
yeah, Luke's a good guy. We go back a long way too.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and he, yeah, he always had that passion for building instruments, and yeah. So as far as I know, Pat, you might know more, but yeah, he's building guitars and
ukuleles and stuff like that. Yeah,
Right
that's what
on.
he's doing. Yeah, and he
Yeah,
does a
good for
bang up
him.
job too, from what I've seen.
Mhm.
Right on. Cool. Well, I guess his kids must be growing up then.
Teenagers.
honestly don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think last time I was by his house, and his kids would have been, yeah, like kind of elementary age or so, but
Okay.
that'd be about 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I've lost touch with him. I wonder if we're still Facebook friends. I should try and contact him.
Yeah, if you need contact information, if you don't have it, I can find it very easily.
Okay,
So yeah.
cool. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Lael, I want to ask you one last thing from me anyway, and the dialogue can keep going, but there's one thing in particular I wanted to ask you about, which was the fact that when I introduced you, it was drummer, educator, and band leader. So to elaborate on the band that you're leading, which happens to be a community band, and to just let some know that there is, at least in this area, that there is life after high school to play and stuff like that, and how you came about being the leader of the group, because I believe, wasn't it Rich Condon that had it before you?
Yeah. So Rich, so the band's Midnight Blue Jazz Society, right? So actually, funny story. They originally were a West Winds band, and so
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
and they were the I don't know, like the silver band or wherever they rank them, and they got fed up with the way West Winds sort of were running their show, and they mutinied, and they left, like they
En masse?
and yeah,
Really?
like the entire
Mutiny.
yeah. And so they ditched West Winds, and then they hired Richard, which must have been a pretty bold step for Richard to take that gig, right? Because like he's
the enabler now.
Yeah, and that would definitely, I don't know what his relationship is with the West Wind guys, but that obviously would have ruffled some feathers, because I know, like, even I had no idea of their history, and so when I was asked to audition for the role, right, I'd been recommended by Rob Billington,
Out in Cochrane, Bow Valley High School.
Yeah, which I've always had huge respect for Rob, and I always
He's a great guy.
Yeah, but I always thought he thought I was an idiot, right? He's so good at what he does, right?
Mhm.
And we'd have our bands at festivals, and I'd hear his band, and I'm like, man, like that's a good band. And then my band would play, and I'd be thinking, he must think I'm a fool. But yeah, so he actually recommended me, so that just out of the blue, I got this call to audition, and went in and ran a rehearsal, and they're super fun group, eh? Like they really are just a good bunch of people. And then it was probably almost maybe a year later of working with these guys that I find out that the history of them like totally screwing over West Wentz. And I'm thinking, well, there you go. I'm never going to get a gig with those guys. That's for sure. But, yeah, so the, community band, a lot of them, well, some of them didn't even play in high school, right? Like just picked up, we got a tenor sax player that just started playing tenor sax when he was 50, and now he's 80. And he's got 30 years experience. He plays quite well, right? But when I started working with them, like there's so many big bands in Calgary, like it's crazy, right? Like I remember reading a newspaper article, and I feel like there's like 12, well, pre-COVID, right? There was 12 or so. And at Pat, as you know, there's really I guess three that you would consider pro, right? So you got Prime Time and what's CJO, right? And then the Wednesday night band, right? Which are,
they're kind of, but might classify them as semi-pro because they're it's not a band completely of professional players per se.
But everyone plays at a professional.
Yeah, they play at a high level though. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so when I started with these guys, I realized like there's no way that we can compete with any of those bands, right? Because the musicianship is like they play fine, but they're amateurs, right? And so just really focused on picking repertoire that was fun and entertaining, and selling out and just really going for the crowd pleasers, right? But it's really turned out well, right? Because we do pretty well when we do the shows, right? People like us, they like having fun, and we tied into this burlesque company, so we've been doing these burlesque shows, which has been suspended since COVID, but we got one coming up, and it's
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's just it's really fun, right? But it's a challenge too, right? Because and this is what I've realized. I've always kind of wondered, well, not really, I guess, but in retrospect, I've wondered, like what is that point of between really good amateur and pro, right? And I'm realizing it's just consistency, right? Like there's nights when these guys are on fire, right? Like they play so well, but then, on another night, it's just not there, right? And and realizing like that's what it is. It's just that consistency, eh? Being able to, bat 1,000. Well, not that I bat 1,000 myself, but like having a pretty good average, and so that is challenging, right? Because there are some nights where you're just like, what the hell, right? You guys, you've played this song a million times. Why are we diving on it? But
yep,
I've stepped off stage playing with professional groups saying the same thing. There are nights when it's just that what the band's like when it clicks, but then it's just you're lucky to escape with how well we did kind of night. There's always those, whether it's full moon or the planets are aligned weirdly or who knows what. It's just weirdness. But I was going to ask, how many years now has it been that you've been doing this?
That's crazy. Like I think almost a decade.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because like Greg, we did that thing with you guys 4 years ago, right?
That's at least 4 years ago. Yeah. A couple of years before COVID.
Yeah.
And then you had me one time when I was out there, and it was at the pub in Ogden, I think.
The Linwood Station.
The Linwood, yeah.
Linwood Station.
That's got to be a couple of years before you guys came out here. So
yeah, and that was with Michael Woods.
Perkwood.
That's right. Oh, that would have been when I was out to do the thing maybe at Ambrose. And then we connected that with what you were doing. That's right.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to tell Lael, because since he, the community band thing, but Pat will dig this story too. No doubt everybody knows who the Boss Brass was. How many of you remember Steve Wallace, the bass player in the Boss Brass?
Yep.
Who played with Oscar Peterson, among many others, for a couple of years. So anyway, for the past few years, there's been these rumors that Steve Wallace is retiring to Courtney. So anyway, Steve Wallace retires to Courtney. So my friend Rob Peterson, the drummer in the Courtney band, calls me up and he said, okay, our bass player is leaving. He says, we got to get Steve Wallace to play in the concert in the community band. And I'm thinking, this isn't going to happen. He's not going to be interested in this. And then Rob's like, you call him, Greg. And I said, I'm not freaking calling Steve
I'm
Wallace.
not going to edit that one out either.
And my friend Rob, he's fearless, man. And I say that in the nicest way. He's fearless. He said, I'll call him. It's like, okay. So he calls Steve Wallace. They chat a little bit about it. And he's like, let's go for coffee. So he takes Steve Wallace. I think actually Steve said, well, just come to my house. So anyway, the next day or the day after, Rob calls me and he said, Steve Wallace is going to play in our community band.
That's awesome.
I was like, this is a joke. He's like, I'm dead serious. So we started up back in, I guess, towards the end of the September. We went till about the beginning of December, and then we took that break. And Steve Wallace is playing in the band, and he is the nicest guy going, and he's super digging it. And of course, everybody's some of them in the band know who he is, some have no clue.
Is he really coming along?
I go over and I thank him every time. Oh man, the sound of that bass, and he's given the band a lift, and I've thanked him profusely a couple of times. He's like, yeah, it's my pleasure, Greg. He says, don't worry, we'll get there, man. We'll get the band happening. I'm like, oh my gosh. I pinched myself on the drive home. Steve Wallace is playing in the community band, and he's helping everybody, and they have sectionals, and he coaches them. It's brought the level of the band up,
That's amazing.
And the sound of the bass, so I know what you're saying about the inconsistency of it and so on and so forth, but the sense of community that so many musicians actually buy into, and he's a couple of years younger than me. So he's in his mid-60s, and I guess maybe he's at a point where he just wants to freaking play music and have a good time and play with people and help them. And it's to our benefit, This is Steve, Boss Brass playing in the Georgia Strait Big Band, and he's digging it,
That's so cool. But that's like, I don't know what's going on now, but the Springbank Band had Bob Ehrlitz and Malcolm Page in the rhythm section, right?
There you go, man.
Yeah, I'm like why aren't these guys with my band? But
I tell the students at school about, my experience with, this is a long time ago, playing with Bob Ehrlitz, and I found myself being the young guy in the band. And back in the day, in terms of playing a ballad, I had always come up, you played a ballad, you played the head, and the solos were medium swing, right? It's no longer a ballad. So I didn't really know how to play a ballad. So I'm playing with Bob Ehrlitz, and I forget who the bass and drums were, but probably stronger players than me at the time, more experienced. And it may have been at El Padrino's, if you guys remember that.
I remember El Padrino's.
It may have been there, maybe somewhere else. But anyway.
Did you get paid that night?
And I remember the tune, man. It was I Can't Get Started, which is the trumpet ballad, So, I knew the tune. So I'm playing the tune. I'm getting ready to solo. They're not double timing it, man. I'm playing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And, the expression is you feel like you're standing there naked in front of the band, right? So at the end of the set, I turned to Bob and I said, you guys didn't double time my solo on the ballad. And Bob's reaction was this. as if to say, you want to play with guys older than you? You better figure it out, you know? And ever since then, I made it my business to be able to play a ballad and not have to double time it. I tell the students that too. I'm like, play a ballad, don't double time it. It's not a ballad anymore. Learn how to play a ballad and own it, you know? But yeah, I learned it the hard way, man. Yeah, I have a lot of time for Bob Burleson. We learned early on. I don't care if he ends up watching this, but we learned early on, don't take a lesson with Bob. Get him on the break and ask him questions. Because a couple of my friends took a lesson with him. They're like, nah, it wasn't that great, you know. But on the breaks, you know, and he didn't drink at the time. I don't know if he ever did, or buy him a cup of coffee and say, so, you know, tell me about C7 Altered, you know, and man, he was off for like 15 minutes. It was a freaking lesson right there, you know. So we picked up on that pretty quickly. It's like, yeah, let's just ask Bob questions on the gigs, man. Rehearsals and shit. I have a lot of time for Bob Burleson. He was very helpful to me.
I think he just turned 90, didn't he?
Yeah, 90
yeah,
or 91. He's got pretty
think
bad
you're-
dementia now, though, too. So
I think you're right. His daughter's on Facebook and she
Yeah.
posts some stuff sometimes. So
yeah, we're doing in the concert for the Ambrose Big Band. We're doing 2 arrangements of his originals
oh, nice.
this March 29th. Yeah,
Right on.
Who did the arrangements?
Drew Smith, one of the trumpet players.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're down to 7 minutes on this session. So
Okay.
before it expires.
Well, I'm
So-
about done. So
Yeah.
I think we covered everything.
hmm
It's good to see you, Lael. It's good to hang out. It's been a while.
If we didn't cover everything, we can always follow up with a follow-up.
Yeah, we can do
at
round
some
2.
point, if necessary. But yeah, so there's 3 videos, pretty much of 40 minutes each. So that's about 2 hours worth of stuff. So
Changing the world one video at a time.
that's it. You know it. You
You
know it.
might want to edit out us mocking people with Tourette's.
I do no editing whatsoever. None. All the F-bombs, all the Tourette's. all
Sorry,
the
I
stuff.
dropped the F-bomb twice
It's there.
there. But,
It is there, and it will stay. So
I'll
I think anybody,
I'll use the excuse that I'm an old fart. I can say whatever I want.
Mhm. Well, I think anybody who's seen any of the other videos too knows that none of it's edited. There's no bleeping or whatever. So
Yeah.
you know,
No, it's all pretty benign, I think.
it
so.
is what it is. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Cool.
What do you guys got on the go tomorrow? You playing or?
I have prime time Saturday afternoon at
All right. On.
yeah, 2 to 4 tomorrow afternoon. So
So I did St. Patty's Day yesterday. We played from noon to 1 a.m.
Jesus,
Excuse me, a 13-hour gig?
$50.
I
Whoa.
didn't even lift my arms anymore.
$50.
Yeah, a little bit.
$50 and all the beer.
Yeah, and all the broccoli dip you want.
Yeah, no.
Holy cow. Well, that's got me beat, man. I've never done a 13-hour gig.
So it pays stupid, right? Like we used to, so it's at the James Joyce on 8th. And we used to just come in and do like 1 or 2 sets and play other places, right, during the day. But they kind of had some issues with, and this is like a decade ago, the inconsistency with some of the bands. So they said, you know, what would it cost for you guys to play the entire day? So we gave them a number, and they said, yeah, okay. Really? Okay.
All right, then.
And but here's a funny story. So we've been doing this for years, right? And one St. Patty's Day, it just lined up that I was taking my high school band to Germany, so I had to sub out the St. Patty's Day, right? And so it's all just, you know, cheesy Irish thrash, right? And but it's such a lucrative gig. I thought, you know, I can sub this out to anyone's going to take this gig, right? So I threw it to Tyler, and he took it, and it was funny because it was a little bit I guess, a little bit selfish of me to just want to see him have to endure 13 hours of passion through bad.
Did he come back and say, "Oh man, never again"?
No, you know what? He was great. Of course, he
Okay.
did a phenomenal job, right?
Oh, good.
But the guys were, after when I came back, they were like, so like, what was with that guy? Like every break he'd just leave the bar. And he didn't break a stitch all day. And yeah, no, it's because he's a real drummer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I don't know if I've ever debriefed with him about that. Like maybe he felt that was his calling.
Maybe there's still time.
Maybe we could swap gigs. He can give me some of those symphony shows, and
There you go.
I'll throw him a couple pub gigs.
Right on.
Right.
All right. All right. We're at 2.5 minutes left before this shuts down. So
Okay.
shall we
Well,
just
that was
call it?
fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good time, man. It was good to hang with you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, guys. And
Good to catch up.
I'll be posting this pretty much right away. And I'll send you links when it's up. And
Now with the with all that advertisement on YouTube, are you cutting Lael and I in on your royalties?
oh yeah, because they're flooding in, as you can well imagine. It's like I can't stop it. It's just a barrage, a barrage of nothingness.
Apparently, a couple of the students at school where I teach have been checking these things out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
They're gonna hear you drop F-bombs now. So
That's
I hope they're happy
cool.
about that.
They'll be surprised because they never do it in school.
Yeah, make sure you tell the department head about that. Okay, guys. If you hear that, yeah. That has to come up in your review at the end of the year.
Right on.
Well, that's good. Tell them to tell their friends if they have any. So there you go.
Yeah, I think you got a bit of a fan base there with the Midnight Blue guys.
For these?
Yep.
Really? Now we're going to get more now that you're the one that's being interviewed, I think.
There you go.
As I slag their inconsistencies.
No kidding. And they'll say, "What is that shit you were talking about us?" So you
Well, tell them all I said hi.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
Tell them that it's come up with the Courtney band. Occasionally they'll say, "Hey, what's up with those cats from Calgary?" And I always say, well, I've heard from Lael, or I haven't heard from Lael, or whatever. Everything's cool. So they do remember that fondly. That was a fun hang, man.
Yeah, and we'd love to, if there's any way we can reciprocate that visit sometime, or we'll come back and hassle you again.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out, but we don't have the funds that you guys get. So
Yeah, I know. Actually, we just got an Alberta Foundation grant, eh?
good for you.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the band is all these, it's all, they might not be professional musicians, but they're professionals at everything else they do.
Right on.
Just so you know, we're less than a minute now.
All right.
So this is going to
We'll
shut
wrap it
down
up.
pretty much right away.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's not me. It's Zoom doing it, not me.
That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah. Keep in touch.
Peace.
Stay well.
Peace out.
Peace out.